The morning announcement crackled through Roosevelt Middle School's state-of-the-art speaker system, Principal Martinez's voice echoing proudly through the hallways. Good morning, Eagles. As you know, our school has been selected as a pilot program for the nation's most advanced security monitoring system. With 127 high-definition cameras, motion sensors, and behavioral analysis software, we're ensuring every student feels safe and protected. But what the principal didn't mention was Atlas, the German Shepherd who had arrived just 3 weeks earlier as part of the new therapeutic support program. While the cameras watched for external threats, Atlas was trained for something far more subtle, the invisible dangers that no technology could detect. Jordan sat in the back corner of Mrs. Chun's algebra class, hoodie pulled up, staring blankly at equations that might as well have been hieroglyphics. The 13-year-old had perfected the art of appearing present while being completely absent. The security cameras captured every angle of the classroom, facial recognition software noting attendance and alert levels. But they couldn't see the storm brewing behind tired eyes. Atlas lay near the classroom door, his massive frame relaxed but alert. The German Shepherd's dark eyes tracked movements with professional precision, but lately they kept returning to the same student in the back corner. Something was wrong. Something the cameras couldn't see. Dr. Sarah Fleming, the school's new crisis counselor, had introduced Atlas as part of an innovative mental health initiative. Studies show that therapy dogs can detect emotional distress through subtle changes in body language, scent, and behavior patterns, she had explained to the faculty. Atlas is trained specifically to identify students experiencing severe depression, anxiety, or suicidal ideation. The timing couldn't have been more critical. National statistics showed adolescent suicide rates at an all-time high, and Roosevelt Middle School had experienced 2 attempts just the previous semester. The administration had invested millions in security technology to keep external threats out. But they were finally acknowledging that some of the most dangerous threats came from within, from the silent battles. Students fought every day. Jordan's parents had divorced 6 months ago, a messy split that left scars deeper than anyone realized. Mom worked double shifts at the hospital now, Dad had moved 3 states away, and Jordan felt caught in a void that grew darker each day. Friends had stopped trying to include Jordan in conversations, teachers barely noticed the declining grades, and the lunch periods were spent hiding in bathroom stalls. The advanced behavioral monitoring system had flagged Jordan twice, once for prolonged isolation behavior and once for decreased social interaction metrics. But the alerts were filed away with hundreds of others. Digital noise in an overwhelmed system that prioritized measurable threats over invisible pain. Atlas, however, operated on a different frequency entirely. During third period English, Jordan sat motionless while classmates discussed themes of hope and redemption in the novel they were reading. The irony wasn't lost here. They were analyzing fictional characters, finding reasons to live while. Jordan felt increasingly disconnected from any such reasons. Atlas suddenly rose from his resting position near Ms. Rodriguez's desk. The German Shepherd's ears perked forward, nostrils flaring slightly as he processed information the security cameras couldn't capture. Pheromones, stress hormones, the chemical signature of despair that humans released when their psychological state reached critical levels. Moving with purpose but without alarm, Atlas approached Jordan's desk. The other students assumed he was simply making his rounds, but Dr. Fleming, monitoring from the hallway, noticed the deliberate nature of his movement. She quietly entered the classroom, observing as Atlas positioned himself directly beside Jordan's chair. The student didn't acknowledge the dog initially, lost in a mental fog that had become increasingly suffocating. But Atlas remained still, his presence both gentle and insistent. After several minutes, Jordan's hand unconsciously moved to rest on the dog's head, fingers tangling in thick fur that felt like the first solid thing touched in weeks. That simple contact triggered something unexpected. Atlas felt the slight tremor in Jordan's hand, sensed the elevated cortisol levels, detected the shallow breathing pattern that indicated someone on the edge of emotional collapse. Without any visible command, the German Shepherd placed his massive head across Jordan's lap, applying gentle pressure, a technique called deep pressure therapy. That could help regulate anxiety and provide grounding. Dr. Fleming made a mental note to schedule a check-in with Jordan. But the immediate crisis passed as the bell rang and students shuffled to their next classes. However, Atlas's assessment was far from complete. Over the following days, the German Shepherd's behavior around Jordan became increasingly protective. During lunch, when Jordan sat alone picking at untouched food, Atlas would position himself nearby. In the hallways, the dog would suddenly appear when Jordan walked alone, matching pace with casual precision. The security cameras recorded these interactions as routine therapy dog activities. But Dr. Fleming recognized something more urgent in Atlas's body language. The breaking point came on a Wednesday afternoon during gym class. Jordan had requested to sit out due to a headache, a request that was granted without much thought. While classmates played basketball, Jordan sat on the bleachers, staring at nothing. Feeling more isolated than ever, despite being surrounded by dozens of people. This was when the school's security system should have been most effective. Cameras monitored the gymnasium from 8 different angles. Motion sensors tracked movement patterns, and the AI behavioral analysis software processed thousands of data points per minute. Yet none of it detected what Atlas saw from across the room. The German Shepherd had been working with a different student near the equipment storage when his head snapped up, nose twitching as he caught Jordan's scent profile. The chemical markers were wrong, dangerously wrong. Stress hormones had spiked beyond normal ranges, and there was something else. A resignation scent that Atlas had been specifically trained to recognize as a precursor to self-harm. Atlas abandoned his current task and moved deliberately toward the bleachers. Coach Williams barely noticed as the dog crossed the gymnasium floor, focused as he was on the basketball game in progress. But Atlas's training kicked in with life-saving precision. He approached Jordan slowly, his massive frame moving with careful deliberation. When he reached the bleachers, he didn't simply sit beside the student as he had done before. Instead, Atlas performed what his trainers called an active intervention. He placed his front paws on Jordan's lap, bringing his face level with the student's, and maintained steady eye contact. The position was impossible to ignore. Jordan looked up for the first time in days, meeting the dog's intelligent brown eyes that seemed to see everything: the pain, the hopelessness, the dangerous thoughts that had been growing stronger each day. "I can't do this anymore," Jordan whispered, so quietly that the nearest surveillance microphone couldn't pick up the words. But Atlas heard, and more importantly, he understood. The German Shepherd had been trained to recognize these exact moments when words became confessions, when thoughts turned to plans, when intervention meant the difference between life and death. Atlas responded by pressing closer, his warmth and weight creating a physical anchor for someone who felt completely adrift. He began what trainers called crisis breathing, deliberate, slow respiratory patterns that humans unconsciously mimic when in close contact with therapy dogs. The technique could help regulate heart rate and reduce panic responses. Dr. Fleming, who had been monitoring Atlas through the school's camera system, immediately recognized the intervention protocol. She dropped everything and headed for the gymnasium, knowing that when Atlas assumed this position, it meant a student was in immediate psychological danger. She arrived to find Jordan crying silently into Atlas's fur, the first tears shed in months of accumulated pain. The German Shepherd maintained his position, patient and steady, providing the emotional support that technology couldn't deliver and humans had failed to recognize. "Jordan," Dr. Fleming said softly, approaching slowly so as not to disrupt the therapeutic moment. "Atlas seems to think you could use someone to talk to. How about we take a walk to my office?" The conversation that followed in Dr. Fleming's office lasted 2 hours. Jordan revealed the depth of despair that had been building for months, the feeling of being invisible in a world that claimed to see everything, and the increasingly frequent thoughts about ending the pain permanently. It was a conversation that might never have happened without Atlas's intervention. The German Shepherd remained present throughout the session, his calm presence providing comfort as Jordan worked through emotions that had been buried too long. Dr. Fleming later noted that the advanced security system had captured Jordan's physical presence in every location but had completely missed the psychological crisis that was building toward a catastrophic conclusion. The incident prompted a comprehensive review of the school's approach to student welfare. While the technological security measures were impressive, they had created a false sense of comprehensive safety. Atlas had demonstrated that some of the most critical threats couldn't be detected by cameras or algorithms. They required the intuitive understanding that only came from genuine emotional intelligence. Following that intervention, Jordan began meeting regularly with Dr. Fleming, working through the complex emotions surrounding the family divorce and the feelings of abandonment that had taken root. Atlas became a consistent presence in these sessions, his calm energy helping to create a safe space for healing conversations. The German Shepherd's role expanded beyond crisis intervention. He was trained to recognize the early warning signs of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation, allowing for preventive measures rather than reactive responses. His presence in the school created an additional layer of support that complemented but didn't compete with the technological security measures other students began to notice and appreciate. Atlas's unique abilities. Marcus, a 7th grader dealing with severe social anxiety, found that Atlas would appear beside him during particularly stressful moments, providing comfort that helped him navigate difficult social situations. Emma, struggling with perfectionism and panic attacks, discovered that Atlas could sense her rising anxiety levels and would intervene with grounding techniques. Before full panic set in, the security camera footage from these interactions revealed something remarkable. While the technological systems documented the external behaviors, they completely missed the therapeutic exchanges that were changing lives. Atlas operated in spaces between pixels and emotional frequencies that no algorithm could decode. Principal Martinez, initially skeptical about the therapy dog program, became one of its strongest advocates after witnessing Atlas's impact. "We invested heavily in keeping dangerous people out of our school," she reflected during a staff meeting. "But Atlas taught us that we also need to protect our students from the dangers within themselves." The success of Atlas's interventions led to discussions about expanding the program. Other schools in the district began requesting therapy dogs, recognizing that mental health support required more than surveillance and behavioral monitoring software. The dogs couldn't replace human counselors or technological safeguards, but they provided something unique: immediate, intuitive responses to emotional crises that often occurred without warning. Dr. Fleming documented Atlas's interventions for research purposes, contributing to a growing body of evidence about the effectiveness of therapy animals in educational settings. Her reports noted that while technology could identify behavioral patterns after they occurred, Atlas could predict and prevent crises before they escalated. The program also highlighted the importance of training staff to recognize and respond to the subtle signs that therapy dogs detected. Teachers learned to pay attention when Atlas showed increased interest in particular students, understanding that his behavior often preceded requests for counseling support or crisis interventions. Jordan's recovery became a testament to the power of early intervention and consistent support. The thoughts of self-harm gradually diminished through therapy, medication management, and the ongoing comfort provided by Atlas's presence. The dog's initial crisis detection had literally saved a life, but his continued support helped build the foundation for genuine healing. 6 months after that critical intervention in the gymnasium, Jordan participated in a school presentation about mental health awareness. Standing beside Atlas, Jordan shared the story of how the dog's intervention had provided hope during the darkest period of their young life. The presentation was recorded by the same security cameras that had missed the original crisis, but this time they captured something beautiful: a student who had found reasons to live, standing confidently beside the dog who had helped make that transformation possible. The advanced security system at Roosevelt Middle School continued to monitor for external threats, tracking movements and analyzing behaviors with impressive technological precision. But Atlas had proven that some of the most important security work happened in quiet moments, in gentle interventions, and in the spaces between heartbeats where hope could be restored or lost forever. Today, Atlas continues his work at Roosevelt Middle School, a living reminder that true safety encompasses far more than physical security. He represents a bridge between high-tech monitoring and high-touch care, demonstrating that sometimes the most sophisticated detection system is a wet nose, perked ears, and a heart trained to recognize when someone needs saving. The school's motto, "Preparing students for tomorrow," took on new meaning with Atlas's presence. Because sometimes preparing for tomorrow means ensuring that students believe they have a tomorrow worth living. And sometimes that assurance comes not from cameras or algorithms, but from the gentle wisdom of a German shepherd who understands that every life is worth protecting, especially from the dangers that hide in plain sight.